Guys, Star Wars The Force Awakens has finally arrived. Yes! But is it good, though? Yes, it is. Guys, Star Wars Episode 7 The Force Awakens is directed by J.J. Abrams, and this is my first official spoiler review ever. And I'm so glad it's for The Force Awakens because this movie has been kept in secrecy all throughout its production since it was announced in 2013. They had to keep this movie in secrecy for almost 3 years, which is incredible because this movie, not knowing anything about it, is the best way to walk into it for the first time. Guys, this review will definitely contain spoilers, so you have been warned. Now let me talk to you guys briefly about my personal experience watching this movie. I began to realize that this is the first Star Wars movie I've ever seen in the theater. Every other Star Wars movie I've just seen at home on DVD or on VHS Classic for the original trilogy. I had never seen a Star Wars movie in the theater, so this was my first time. And when I went to go see this movie at the lovely premiere on December 17th, I remember the entire theater, when the lights went out, they were all screaming, cheering, and clapping. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to clap with them. And as soon as Star Wars flashed onto the screen once more, everyone was clapping and I was so happy. As the opening title crawl just streamed onto the screen, I just felt so good. And the first line of that is Luke Skywalker has disappeared. And that just makes you in a state of wonderment because we haven't seen the guy in any trailer. And since this is a spoiler review, I can now talk about Luke's appearance in the film, which is for about 30 seconds at the very end of the film. And I kind of wish they had a little bit more. And I'll talk about that at the end of this review. So the movie begins with the destruction of an innocent Jakku village, in which Max von Sydow, which I didn't even know was in this movie, gives a young pilot this object of information that we find out is the key plot of finding Luke Skywalker. And of course he gives it to the droid called BB-8. Now this little guy was awesome in this movie. They could have made it too cute, but they didn't. They made it with just the right humor, warmth, and somewhat frailness to just make it very interesting, and I liked BB-8. We find out that the young pilot's name is Poe, as he is forcefully taken away by Kylo Ren, but not before he ends up stopping this huge blast from the laser that he tries to kill Kylo Ren with. He just stops that thing mid-air. It was amazing. That laser looked like it was huge. Like it was this big snipe laser. And he just caught it mid-air, which means that he knows the Force. This is, of course, where Poe meets Finn, a young officer in the First Order who just wants to leave because he's seen enough bloodshed and he believes what they're doing is evil and terrible and he just wants to be a good guy. And right from the get-go, I knew I was going to love this character. John Boyega just brought so much charisma to this role. And the one thing that I tried to elude from my spoiler-free review was just how funny this movie is. This is a really funny movie. And John Boyega's character is the prime example of humor in this movie. He is great. So funny, so charismatic, and so likable at the same time. You really like this guy from the get-go. He's awesome. And for me personally, I felt like it would have been a spoiler to tell you guys that his character was funny because it would have been better to just see it off firsthand. You didn't need to know that. Walking into this movie not knowing a single character or their traits is a good thing. Because if I knew he was going to be funny, then I would have been like, oh, it's what I would have expected. And not even 5 minutes go by and they've already established a clean, close friendship. Which was amazing because you actually believed it. Would you have believed in episode 2 that Anakin and Obi-Wan would have been friends? Could you honestly believe that? Had we not shown you the first prequel or episode 3 and you were just left with Attack of the Clones, would you ever believe that those two were friends? With The Force Awakens, there is plenty of show don't exactly tell. And that's great because we actually get to see things happen that are not just given to us through filler and backstory, which feels boring. We're actually going to see these things portrayed on screen happening. Real, tangible ships that are in existence. But the one character that I liked more than Finn was its protagonist, Rey, played by Daisy Ridley. This actress was wonderful. She was incredible. So good to this role. She was handpicked from thousands of women. Thousands of women were auditioned for this role because JJ and the crew wanted to make sure that they got the exact right person to be cast as Rey. And it turns out that on her first day on set, JJ criticized her performance for being too wooden. So we knew that this movie was going to take its acting and characters seriously. Not make them just robotic, over-the-top, wooden, stupid, dull characters that we saw in the prequels. She's a person. A true person with feelings and character traits. Something that we haven't seen since 1983 with Return of the Jedi. And I thought Rey stole the entirety of the movie. She was fantastic in this role, guys. I'm going to keep praising this because she did such a great job. The loneliness of her. She's just this lone scavenger who tries to collect this food source. And she emulates Luke Skywalker a lot. That feeling of her wanting to leave. And also, she has a lot of Luke Skywalker memorabilia, or so you could think. She has this doll model that looks like Luke. She has this X-Wing helmet that resembles Luke's very well. And she's just a lone person who doesn't really have friends. But we also discover the humanity of her character because she is looking and longing to reunite with her family that she lost as a child. Who could her parents be? But now it's a popular fan theory, and I myself may be interested in discovering that she may be Luke Skywalker's daughter. Now, there's no definitive proof on this, obviously. It's just a fan theory. But it's a possibility because she knows the ways of the Force and can be a Jedi. And then she meets BB-8. We get a little bit of banter between the two characters, even though it's funny how she's talking to a robot. Just like C-3PO did with R2-D2 in A New Hope. We'll talk about those similarities to A New Hope later. I liked how Rey defended BB-8 when the guy wanted him. And Rey knows that there's something special about BB-8. So she decides, no, she's not going to. Which was really nice. And then, of course, she runs into John Boyega's character, and they begin their little adventure by trying to head off to a ship when they see all of these TIE fighters coming onto the planet to try to kill them. And then Rey says, no, we're not going to use that ship, that's garbage. And the ship ends up blowing up in front of them, and she's like, okay, we're going to use that ship even though it's garbage. And I thought I knew that it was going to be the Falcon, but when it's introduced, the introduction to the ship was so perfect. And that action sequence, my God, was so good. It was so intense. Edge of your seat thrills, chills everywhere. I could feel shivers running down my spine with the scene. It was so good, so much fun. And also, this is the first of many occurrences where we believe that both characters, not just Rey, could have the Force within them. Because of that lucky trick shot that the Millennium Falcon gives that last TIE fighter, we're thinking to ourselves, wait, how did Rey know how to do that? And how was Finn able to just blast that thing and hit the TIE fighter with no real hesitation at all? Seems really interesting, and it adds a lot of mystery to the characters because we don't really know who they are. The one thing that I think not a lot of people mention is Rey and Finn themselves. Finn, we know that Finn has been taken away from his family just like Rey has. But who are their families? We have no idea. But we like them so much almost instantly. And what I liked is that they can't introduce themselves until they reach the ship, which meant that it was going to be so fast-paced. That's something that I like from the trailer, is that it showed us that little snippet so that we knew that from their introduction to that ship scene, it was going to be so fast and so quick that they weren't going to have enough time to get all the character exposition out. And then, of course, guys, oh man, Han Solo enters the picture, and wow. Wow, was there an applause for that. Just seeing Harrison Ford on screen again with Han Solo, the best smuggler of all time. Harrison Ford actually looked like he gave a crap because he actually gave a solid performance as Han. And, well, guys, you know I need to talk about him for a minute. Even though this is a spoiler review, guys, spoilers, because this is a big one. Han Solo dies. And when he died, I kind of felt like that was going to happen with the confrontation between him and Kylo Ren, which you find out his name is Ben Solo, of course, Han Solo's son. My initial reaction was, oh, I guess Harrison Ford got what he wanted, because for 32 years, he wanted his character to be dead. He didn't care about Han Solo at all. He doesn't like Star Wars. And in Return of the Jedi, he wanted to die, but George Lucas convinced him otherwise. Now he finally got his wish to die, and it was so sad. But imagine if that death was handled in a bad way. We would never have heard the end of it. But the fact that it felt so justified, because we know why Kylo Ren is evil. We know why he's doing these types of things. It was just so emotionally impactful, powerful for both characters. People are asking questions everywhere. Is Luke in this movie? Yes, he is, for about 35 seconds. It doesn't have any dialogue at all. Something that, for me, with all honesty, the ending of this movie felt very disappointing to me. As well as, I'd say, 5 or 6 other flaws, which I will talk about for the rest of this review. But I think that the ending should have been about 5 minutes longer. And I know I'm one of those people that are going to be like, well, the ending just should have had more, and it could have been more, and stuff like that. But I mean, what's presented to us is very good, though. I just wish it could have been more. I wish Luke could have talked. But I can't really blame the movie for that, because we're going to be getting 2 more of these. It's not like it's the only movie we're going to get. But still, we have to wait 1.5 years for episode 8. And with my spoiler-free review, I need to bring it into light with my spoiler review, is that everything feels very real. The sets feel real, and the action feels real. It's not CGI madness like all the prequels were. They tried to go back to the original trilogy's roots with practical effects and practical imagery, practical sets, real acting, choreography that really just didn't feel so over-stylized. Choreography that you can actually understand is 2 people trying to duke it out with each other. And that was really cool, despite some CGI issues with 2 characters, which I will reference in a moment. Now let's of course talk about Kylo Ren, the chaotic and destructive villain for which we thought originally. And in that first scene where the commander tells him that they lost him, Kylo Ren just goes insane and just destroys the console in front of him. And I was like, whoa! He was just blasting that lightsaber away, and it was like really frightening. But unfortunately, when Kylo Ren removes that mask to reveal what he looks like, I was like, what? He looked like just an average, ordinary guy. And even though Adam Driver performed him with quivering rage, I just felt like he didn't have to remove the mask. I mean, could you imagine how much of a cooler reveal it would have been had he removed the mask at the end of the film when Han was talking to him? What I loved about the original trilogy with Vader is that we didn't see him without his mask, his face, until Return of the Jedi. With Empire Strikes Back, we got that little snippet. We got that little teeny tiny little look at the back of his head, and we noticed that there was some weird stuff. However, I just didn't like the reveal as well that he was Han Solo's son. To me, it felt kind of tacked on. Something that I didn't really like at all. And it was nice. It was an interesting reveal. But the way it was done for me just felt like, here you are. You are Han Solo's son. Another problem I had with this movie was the usage of Captain Phasma. What the hell, guys? She was only in it for like one big scene, and that was really it. She just got taken away by Han and Finn to the trash compactor, which, once again, also mirrors A New Hope. Once again, I will bring this up, I promise, at the end of this review. But I just felt like her character was so underused that it was very disappointing. And if we do see her again, I hope that she gets an even bigger role. My third issue was the CGI. And when it was used, it was like very obvious to us. With Supreme Leader Snoke, it just felt like it was out of nowhere. And the fact that he was a giant just made it so unrealistic. Now, I know he's played by Andy Serkis, which, I mean, that dude is just incredible in any movie that he's in. But I just didn't really like the CGI for him whatsoever. I like the mystery behind the character because do we really know anything about this guy? No. And I like the idea that they're going to set that up so that it could be revealed to us later on. But I like the fact that we don't know anything about this character other than he's this new bad guy, kind of like the Emperor. And he was able to turn Kylo Ren to the dark side. That's all we know about him. But the one character that was just so out of place was Maz Kanata, played by Lupita Nyong. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce her name. It's a very interesting spelling for her name as well. But I just did not think her character needed to necessarily be there. She was only there to present Rey with the lightsaber and to meet with Han. And I just didn't really feel like her character felt real, felt there at all. It was so unrealistic because of the CGI, because everything else was so practical that her character just felt like a CGI mess that just didn't really need to be there. And also the pacing in that cantina-like band scene, once again referencing Star Wars, but I'll come back to that. I wish it was about 3 minutes shorter. It's all I think it could have taken for that scene to not have dragged and to get us right back into another action sequence which is filmed beautifully. Before I close it with my biggest flaw of the movie, I want to talk about the lightsaber battle at the end of the film. Awesome. It was so good. It wasn't choreographed like crazy like the prequels. This is an actual fight, as I said before, with two people, Finn and Kylo Ren, looking like they're ready to duke it out. And then, of course, when Finn gets sliced, you're like, whoa, that was so cool. But at the same time, you felt so upset because you thought he died. Even though I don't think he's dead because he's shown later on that tray and he doesn't look like he's dead. But what I loved was when Rey continued that fight with Kylo Ren. And what I found interesting about that scene is that she's kind of running away from him, even though she feels like she may have the Force within her. And when that's finally revealed that she does have the Force within her, it was incredible. That moment of her just like finding the strength to fight back against Kylo Ren was perfect. I don't think they could have handled it any differently. It was amazing. And what I loved was the scene before where she's in restraints and she's talking to the stormtrooper and she's saying, you will open the gate and leave. And I just love that so much. And the best part of that scene by far, which landed so much laughter, was when she says, and you will leave the blaster on the ground. And I will leave the blaster on the ground. Drops it. It was so good. This is actually a rumor that could be confirmed, and I think it is. That stormtrooper is Daniel Craig. And when I heard that, I was like, oh my god, James Bond was in Star Wars? That's awesome! He was that stormtrooper? When I heard that, I was like, no way! That's that stormtrooper? And I think that actually could be Daniel Craig. My main gripe with the movie is, of course, the similarities between it and the original Star Wars film. Particularly with the Starkiller base. To me, it just felt like another Death Star. And it just had this big weakness that if you explored it, just blow it all up. And for me, it just felt like a weak plot that just didn't need to be there at all. And the Starkiller base destroying the planets, though very upsetting that may be, just felt like Alderaan being destroyed in Star Wars. Didn't really feel that much different. And also, the plot of the movie feels very similar as well. We have this droid carrying this important information that needs to be taken to the Resistance, while the First Order, emulating the Empire, is trying to get it from him. And we're introduced to this character who all she wants to do is leave, like Luke Skywalker. Nonetheless, though, guys, those flaws aside, I still had a really good time with The Force Awakens. And as an average moviegoer experience, it was excellent. But as a more critical standpoint, I do have to realize and pull myself back from all that nostalgia and say to myself, was it still a good movie? Yes, I do think it was, and I will definitely go and see it again if someone asks me to. This is the kind of movie where you can return to it. It's the kind of movie that feels open to just returning and having a blast with it. And I'm going to go see this movie without a critical thought. I'm going to see it just for fun. And I think I may like it even more if I see it just for fun, because this is a very entertaining movie. One of the most entertaining movies by far of this year and this decade alone, because it's just warmness, it's awesomeness, the lightsabers, the fights feel real, everything feels real besides those CGI scenes that I just didn't really like. In my mind, what they did is they gave you a puzzle, okay? Imagine you have a 100-piece puzzle, and they gave you 10 pieces, which covered the edges. That was what the trailers did for us. They just covered the edges of the movie. And you as an audience member got to just pick every piece together, forming an entire thing. And it was amazing just being able to sit there, not knowing a thing about the movie, and still being able to just find the corners and then just piece everything together. Guys, what did you think about this movie? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Are you somewhere in the middle? Well, I'd love to hear your comments. Just put them in the comment section below. And guys, my first spoiler review, I really liked it, and I plan to do more in the future. Guys, thank you for watching my spoiler review, and stay tuned.